ride the breeze of ease. I like that. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Gotta take a look at you. Be with you for a minute. Good morning, good morning. My name is Jay Pryor. I'm a lay member of this congregation. I am also an executive and life coach, and I have declared myself a transformational leader about 7 years ago when I wrote my book, Lean Inside, 7 Steps to Personal Power, and it's taken me a lot of the last 5 years gaining the confidence to realize that this thing that I synthesized down from all the things I've learned and gleaned into this book actually work. People, it really works. It's so funny, but it's true. It's taken me a long time to finally go, oh, wow, when people read my book and stuff happens to them. It's amazing. It really works. So it's my honor and privilege to be here today. One of my favorite things to do is to get to speak at a Unity or New Thought place because it's the place I get to talk about God. And I love talking about God, and I just kind of, in my book, I, just sidestepped that a little bit. I mean, I talk a lot about spirituality, but we don't talk about God. And one of the reasons I love to talk about God here is because here we learned about the law. And so when I first came to New Thought, I had already had the background of coaching. I already had the background of a religion that was very staunch religious. I was Catholic, raised Catholic. We were like, my family was 9 people, and we were a town of 500. So we were the church, we were the choir. There was 2 other families that had 10 kids. That was it. That was the whole church right there. And so we were very religious. And so I came to Unity after I had already started this idea of learning about vibration and learning about what really is this thing that some people call God. And what I love about Unity and I love about New Thought is we have all these authors from the late 1800s, early 1900s that we can go to and read. And when we read them, we learn that they're teaching us about the law. And they're teaching us about the laws of the universe that back in the day, they didn't have the science to know this stuff. Right now, we have quantum physics. We have all this science to back up, right? To back up everything that our teachers taught us in the early 1900s. And for me, when I started reading this stuff, I'm like, wow. So these people knew the truth, right? They knew the truth. And we know the truth, and we say it every single day. I always start out this way because I have to remind us that there's only one presence and one power in the universe. Just one presence, right? Just one. And when I got here, it was a revelation that even though I'd been taught that God is everywhere, all present, omniscient, all-knowing, and all-present, everywhere, all the time, somehow that excluded me. Now, that doesn't make any sense, does it? If God is everywhere all the time, right, then somewhere I have to be in that mix. Right? But that was a revelation to me when I got here, because I had always thought that God was outside of me, and it was something I needed to earn my way to, right? Or be good enough to get, or be, good enough to have been in its graces, right? And so learning for me that there's this substance that we now know exists, and it's everywhere all the time. Right? This substance is everywhere all the time. It doesn't form into matter, right? Matter like that chair. The substance is more like the idea of the chair. The idea is always there, right? And then it forms into the matter that is the chair, right? And so the universe or God is this substance. And we like to think of it now sometimes as vibration because that's helpful, right? So in my work, I always come from a perspective that everything is energy. And what I tell people that follow me is I don't give a damn if you believe that or not. I really don't. I don't care if you believe it. Because if you practice it, it works. Right? And I'm a very, very practical person. I do a lot of self-assessments because I'm a coach, and I work with, when you're a coach, you know a lot of coaches. And so every coach has their assessment they want you to do, right? Well, I've done 1 million of them, right? So I'll tell you, I know myself quite well. One of almost every assessment that I do will tell you that I am a risk taker, right? That I am a daredevil, right? That you can count on me to leap before I think, right? That's me. And I've been that way my whole life, right? And that's kind of just how I am. I'm one of those people. So when it came down to learning about prosperity, but the other part about me, when you even do the scale, is I'm like almost a spot on the logic scale, right? So I'm a huge risk taker, but it needs to be logical. There has to be something that I can figure out about it, right? Some system to put into it. So I started learning about prosperity. We took a course here, and it was early on in coming to Unity. We took a course here called The Keys to the Kingdom. And in that course, they gave us a formula. I was like, I love formulas. This really works for me. So they gave us this formula, which I'm calling the triple threat to lack consciousness. Because I swear to you, if you plug in to this formula, there is no way that you will not start seeing prosperity come, like start being in the flow anyway of prosperity. Now, prosperity, I want to define, doesn't necessarily mean money. Right? We can be, I am a very prosperous person. When you look at, you would think, if I gauged my life in love and friendship, I'm a gadillionaire, right? I mean, I just have so much of that, and I'm so blessed. So I'm not necessarily talking about money, but it also works with money, right? So I want to make sure you understand, this actually works for everything. And it's this formula that they gave us, right? And so the idea is that when you understand the law, right, and the law is the law is the law, and the law does not discriminate. So just like the law of gravity, I don't care how special you are, if you jump off the roof, you will hit the ground, right? You don't get any amnesty for that. The same is true with the law of circulation, right? And the law of abundance, and what we put out comes back to us. And so if you follow this formula, I promise you, it will start to put you in the flow. Now the formula that they gave us is called time, talent, and treasure. And the formula that they used was based on a 40-hour work week, because most of the people in the course were doing 40 hours a week work. So the first thing they had us do was break down these time things. So time is the time you spend with Spirit. Time is the time you spend with Spirit. Now, I know human beings, and we have to have a really loose definition for that, right? Because for some of you, spending time with Spirit is in meditation and prayer, which I highly recommend. Meditation, silence, and prayer. And I recommend some of that, right? At least part of your time with Spirit, I really recommend being prayer, meditation, and silence. But the other part of your time with Spirit can be whatever you think it is, right? If you enjoy being out in nature and that to you feels like you're being spiritually fed, then great, do that, right? If you're an artist and when you're doing art, it really has you feel like you're in the flow of Spirit, do that, right? We can't define for you what your time is with Spirit. We can just tell you that if you give an hour and a half of your time to Spirit every day, I guarantee you're going to be in the flow. Like, you just can't not do that. I mean, I promise it works every time. And an hour and a half is a long time, right, for some people in particular. Now, when Jessica and I did this course, this is pre-children, right? So an hour and a half wasn't as big a deal. But for me, every time I talk about something or do something, I try to make sure I really get rigorous about my practice with it, because I wouldn't want to come here and be like, well, so you should do this, but I haven't. I've never done it, and I don't care to. So that doesn't work. So I've been really focused on how much time I'm doing in Spirit. I'm working on getting this hour and a half in, and I'm telling you, when you have the life I have now versus the life I had in 2008, it's more difficult, right? There's just more things to do. And so, yesterday, part of what I called my Spirit time was collaging with Jessica and Rose, right? So you can be creative about your Spirit time. What's important is that you, in your mind and in your conscious, have integrity about that's your Spirit time. Right? If you want to declare working out as your Spirit time, that's fantastic. As long as you are not lying to yourself about the fact that working out is Spirit time. You can call whatever you want Spirit time, as long as in your alignment, you're really doing Spirit time. Right? So for me, watching Netflix would not be Spirit time. I could say it is, but I'd be lying. However, we did just watch a documentary called Heal on Netflix. This is a great documentary I highly recommend on Netflix, and that was Spirit time for me, because it was a lot of learning about Spirit and a lot of what I love, which is the science and the Spirit together. Right? So those are my favorite things. So an hour and a half of Spirit time is recommended, and that's the time piece. It's whatever you do to connect up to your source. Because here's what I want you to get, and this is what the other revelation for me about prosperity was understanding that my job is not the source. of my prosperity. My job is not the source of my prosperity. Now, when we get into that mindset, then we start to go, when clients start to slow down, or we start to seize up, and believe me, that's happened to me. It's definitely happened to me. But knowing that this substance is the source of everything, right? That this substance in the universe is the source of everything, and whatever I feed into that always will come back to me. So if I'm giving my time, right, then that I end up getting more time usually, right? I feel like I don't have an argument with time. The next tip is to give your talents. Now, based on a 40-hour work week, they recommend that you volunteer or do something in your community for at least 4 hours a week. Now, for me, that doesn't always measure out week by week. But, should I say, I serve on a board here in Lawrence. I serve on the Heartland Healthcare Access Board, right? It's very important to me that we have a place in Lawrence where anybody can go get health care anytime for free. I mean, if you don't have the money, we will not turn you away. That's our mission at Heartland. We serve you there, and I'm on the board. And so I spend time doing that. I also volunteer with GLSEN, which is Gay and Lesbian Services Education Network. We just go by GLSEN. But our goal is to make schools safe for all kids, especially LGBTQ kids, but not especially, but for all kids. Those are marginalized to some degree. So I serve doing that, right? And then other places I do my best to serve here and there. So sometimes, last week we did some hiring at one on this board, and I worked 12 hours that week, right? That was 12 hours of volunteering. Now, I do let that, and I have a knowing that, okay, well, I have 12 hours. That doesn't mean I just go, okay, I'm done. I could sit for 3 weeks and not do anything now, right? That doesn't work because it's not in integrity with me, right? Because again, all of these pieces have to be in integrity with you as a human, right? You have to vibe with these like you're doing the work, because if you are conning yourself, the universe knows, right? Because you know, right? It's how you feel. Your feelings about these things are so important. So 4 hours of volunteer time, an hour and a half of spirit time, and then tithing all of 10% of your money to where you're spiritually fed. Now this one for me was like, 10%? Right? What? And the first time that I wrote a check for 10% of my monthly income, I said, we had a guy here, his name was Reverend Don Lane at the time, and he taught this class, and I said, am I tithing on my gross or my net? Like, I mean, seriously here, people. And he's like, how much prosperity do you want? Okay, so again, I'm a daredevil, right? I am somebody who is a daredevil. So the very first time in this class, I took this formula very seriously. I gave an hour and a half of spirit time, I did 4 hours of volunteer work, and every dime that came into my bank account, I tithed on to, at the time, at this church. At the time we called it a church, at Unity. And so I tithe here because this is where I get spiritually fed. And sometimes I don't. Right? There are days where I come here and that didn't spiritually feed me. But the truth is, where I learned this stuff is here. Where I continue to learn this stuff is here. Where I continue to meet people who speak this language, who keep me conscious that I have a commitment to be powerful. I have a commitment to be positive in my life. Those people, I meet them here. Right? We have a group that I helped start that meets before this group that is vital to my existence now. That group is very supportive of me. I met them here, right? So I give my tithe here. I also give part of it to the Light Center because Robin Goff's meditation for me is a powerful thing for me. So I give her money every time I come to that meditation. I give my money to where I'm spiritually fed with great faith, knowing that it's going to come back. Now, like I said, I'm a daredevil, okay? So I don't necessarily expect all of you to be able to just immediately start tithing 10%. I wouldn't expect that. Because unless you're a daredevil like me, who's just willing to go, well, I'll just try it, right? Now, here's what I want you to know, that when I do it, it never has failed me. Right? And there has been times, and essentially that very first tithe check I wrote was like $200 and some, and that was how much money I had tithed on how much money I'd made that month. Now I give checks weekly that are similar to that amount, right? I mean, that is how much prosperity has come, right, in that direction. Now, throughout the years, especially when at Unity, we've sometimes been a little rocky here, I have had moments of seizing up. I have had moments or times when we've got stuff going on and it just doesn't look like we're going to cover the bills, so I can't give that money away, right? When I listen to that and I give in to that every single time and don't give when I'm like this and I don't give, what inevitably happens is something else happens and I lose clients or something. Like, I mean, always. And you get this, right? Michael just said the words, to consider channeling versus controlling, right? He was talking about being in that flow, in that channel, versus trying to control it. And can you get just even visually, or can you feel the energy difference between channeling versus controlling? Right? And so any time that I have seized up, right, or gotten scared, what happens is it kind of backfires on me, and I get, I start to lose clients. I actually lose money, right? And it happens every time. And I've been doing this for years, right? And something will happen, and I'll get scared, and we'll stop tithing, and then it's like, where's our money? Oh no, what's going on? Oh crap, I forgot to tithe. I'll go back to tithing, right? Now, there's some principles of coaching that go along with this triple threat formula. So the triple threat is time, talent, and treasure. There's some basic coaching that we're learning through the Maria Nemeth book as well, because Maria Nemeth is a great coach, right? And so the very first thing with each one of these is, if you're serious about this, the very first thing that it makes you do is it looks at what's so. With all of these, if you're going to do this, you have to get present to what is so in your life, right? So with time, giving spirit time, in order to do that, you're going to have to look at your calendar, right? You're going to have to look at, where do I have that time? Now, what that does for most people is it gives you an opportunity to look at, what am I doing that in my time that doesn't necessarily match with the values I have for my life, right? We took a class one time, it was really brilliantly designed, where the homework for the class, and they made it seem like these were two separate assignments, right? So the homework for the class, one assignment was to write down all our values. And the next assignment, which seemed totally separate, was to write down how we spent our time. We came back the following week, and everybody talked about all these things they valued. They valued the environment. They valued women's rights. They valued children, all above all, right? Has these high values. And then we were like, how did you spend your time? I watched 12 hours of football and had a beer game. Like, right? The time when I saw that, my values were not lining up with how I wanted to spend my time. That particular week for me, that's when the NFL kicked in Thursdays. So that particular week for me, I had watched football Monday night, Thursday night, and all day Sunday, right? I had literally spent like 16 hours watching football, right? And there was nowhere on my list of values that said I value football. So I was like, oh, wow, I got to figure that out. Right? That's why I stopped watching NFL football. I mean, I watched a few of the playoff games and the Super Bowl usually with my siblings, but I don't really watch football anymore because it doesn't align with how I want to spend my time. Right? If you're serious about doing spirit time, it's going to make you look at your calendar and you look at the things you're doing in your life to decide, are these things I really want to be doing with my time? Right? Where can I find that spirit time? It might be turning off the TV sooner or not reading the news today. It might be whatever those things are, but it makes you look at what's so, right? And in coaching, starting out with what's so is so important because you can't move forward when you don't know what you have. And so each of these, right, first you have time, then you have your talent. Again, it's looking at where do I want to serve? Who do I want to serve? I will tell you that this board experience that I'm having is different and I'm enjoying it. And I would have said I wouldn't serve on a board again, right, because I served on a board here when I was a president and we didn't have a minister, right? And it was a lot. It was not a way I like to serve, right? I am not somebody who enjoys sitting in meetings. Not my deal, right? I would much rather set up chairs and make coffee for you. My love language is service. So the way I like to serve is to be of service, right, to people. And so if you're going to tithe your time or tithe your talent to places, it really makes you look at, how do I want to spend this? How am I going to give my talent? Where am I going to give that? And I encourage you to give that in places that are going to lift you up. Not everybody gets lifted up the same way. I have been in food kitchens in Washington, D.C. and walked away feeling horrible, right, and sad, like I was not my way to serve, right? So you have to find what's your way to serve, because again, all of this is really contingent upon how you feel about what you're doing. If you were coming at any of this with resentment, fear, scarcity feelings, any of that, it's not in alignment with these activities, and then it won't work. It'll have you feel cruddy about it, right? And then lastly, your treasure. In order to be able to tithe your treasure, you have to see it. And for me, one of the ways that I wiggle out of dealing with finances is not wanting to deal with it, right? I just don't want to deal with it at all. In Jessica and I's relationship, it was the one thing that throughout our 15 years together, we have very carefully and with gentleness been able to untie money conversations. Because you all come baggage with all your money stuff that started when you were little. And so whatever relationship you're in, you have to be able to have communication around that. And we used to, every time we talk about money, we'd cry. One of us would cry because it was not good. We were not coming from the same place. And part of it was, I just was like this. I don't want to know. I'll go make money, but I don't want to look at it, right? I don't want to deal with that. I just don't want to, I don't want to. And she was like, I have to deal with this, right? So having to look at what's so for all of us is such a good practice, right? You have to look at what's so in your life if you want to move it. And part of the basics of coaching have you start out getting clear about what it is, and then where do we want to move to. And so with each of these, time, talent, and treasure, the first things you're going to have to do if you take these on is really look at what's so, and then where do I want to move to? But remembering that the most important thing is how you feel about this. So I would never recommend you be like me and just dive in head first, right? I mean, I would if you have a lot of faith, because the rewards are great. But I am somebody who is bold enough to dive head first in, right? Now, my friend Diane Silver spoke, and our board president spoke a couple weeks ago, how she gives just enough to scare her, right? She gives a little bit more and enough to scare her, right? Because she wants to test that faith, and she has a lot of faith, right? But she doesn't want to feel scared. And she knows that if she feels really scared, it will backfire, right? We know that feeling and how we feel about this is the thing, right, that aligns us with our source. So knowing that source is the supply and not your job, right? That there's this substance that's the supply for everything. And when we give into that, what we give in will come back as the law. But the key to that is that if you are trying to give into it like this, right, it will not work, right? It's a triple threat to lack consciousness if you can do it like this. If you can do it with faith, if you can step out in the resiliency and knowing that what you give out will come back to you. Now, the other principle that in coaching that I love that this makes you do is that keeping track of stuff. The truth is that what you focus on always gets bigger. This is true not only as a metaphysical principle, but because of your reticular activating system in your brain, what you put into, which is the gateway between your conscious and your subconscious mind, what you put into your subconscious mind will continue to pop up in your reality. So the more you know, right, the more things you keep track of are what you get. So what you focus on gets bigger, and what you keep track of you get. And that's a basic coaching principle. We know that if you want to lose weight, for example, we eliminate the negative self-talk around that, and then we have you keep track of something that actually moves you towards that goal. We know you keep track of how much water you drink, you're going to drink more water. It just happens, right? Try it. You want to drink more water? Start keeping track of how much water you drink. You will drink more water. Anything you keep track of, you will get more of, right? The trick is to keep track of the right things. and to speak the right things and to step into the right flow. Because as humans, our fear brain right, has a tendency to be the one that's in charge. And so we have to be very conscious to make sure that the fear brain isn't running this particular area of our lives. We know from neuroscience perspective that people who are successful have 3-to-1 positive to negative thoughts. We know that people who are successful have 3-to-1 positive to negative thoughts. So any area of your life that is not working, I guarantee you're not having 3-to-1 positive and negative thoughts. Right? I guarantee it. Because it's a formula that works. And we know 3-to-1, 3-to-1. So if any area of your life, if you're struggling in that area, I guarantee you're not generating 3-to-1 positive to negative thoughts. Now, our founders knew all this, right? And again, this is why I love New Thought, because, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. One of the reasons I love New Thought is because we have these founders who knew the truth in the beginning. And they didn't have science backing them up. They just had to have faith. And they had enough faith to speak out and to write books and to tell us these things even though there was no science backing this up, right? This is all spirit downloading from here. So I want to share a couple of things out of the book Prosperity with Charles Fillmore. The spiritual substance from which all visible wealth is never depleted. It's right with you all the time and responds to your faith in it and your demands on it. And it's not affected by your ignorant talk of hard times, though we're affected because our thoughts and words govern our demonstration. Right? So I want you to get this. I just said it takes 3-to-1 positive to negative thoughts to be successful in any area that you want to be successful in. What they're saying is that yes, you can have the negativity, right? You can have it if you want to, but it will affect your demonstration, right? The demonstration of whatever we are wanting to manifest is the actual manifestation of it, right? So the demonstration of me knowing I have 3-to-1 positive to negative thoughts in the area of health and well-being is that I'm a very healthy person. That is my demonstration, right? My demonstration of my belief and faith in the act of the tithing time and talent is that I make more money now than I did way back then. And I'm not doing much different, right? I'm just like in the flow. Now, keeping track of things and being in the flow also allows me to be in action, right? I do believe that you have to be in action, you have to do things, right? You have to get in action to get yourself in alignment with it. But that the negative part, if you could get rid of the negativity, it will affect your demonstration. And so you cannot expect to come in here and hear me tell this story and hear you tell it to the triple threat to consciousness, and you decide to tithe while the whole time you're saying, this is never going to work. This is never going to happen. These people are, I'm just losing, I'm throwing my money down the toilet, right? I promise you, if you think that, you are. And it won't work. And so the negativity will impact your demonstration. The truth is, Spirit's always right there, and it's always flowing, and we can always step into it, and it will always come back. And if we dive into the negativity, that's what we get back to. Right? This is not rocket surgery. It really is simple. It's like what we put out comes back. What we think really does help us manifest those things. So I wanted to read that. The other person I love to refer to is Eric Butterworth. Butterworth for me is I just love this human. So Butterworth says, the whole of God's substance is present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time. This is where, when I got this, and this is a difficult concept to get sometimes, I think, for people, but when I got this, what I got was, my whole life I've been taught that God is always, everywhere, all the time. But when I got this idea of science and understood quantum theory enough to know that everywhere in the universe is everything we ever need for everything, and it's all right there all the time. It's like, what? I'm like, well, that's weird. It's hard to get sometimes. But so the whole of God's substance, right? This substance, the idea that God is substance. I love that too because it takes it out of that anthropomorphic God that's going to be, going to judge me. It's a substance, right? It's like this just presence, this substance. The whole of God's substance is present in its entirety at every point in space at the same time. Not just some of it, but all of the substance in the universe is present at any point of human need. There's no place on earth where there's an absence of substance. There's no place on earth, none, you can't go anywhere, where there's an absence of this substance. And so whatever it is, it's always there, right? And we can deny that it's there, but if we lean into it, right, then, what am I trying to say? Then it comes back to us. And I think that there's one barrier that we all have to this, and that is that in order to have this work, we have to have a loving, knowing acknowledgement of our own being, of our own inner being. Your inner being is part of that substance, that part of you that is one, that believes in oneness, that is connected to all of us. That piece of you has to run the day in order for this to work. You have to have a belief in your own goodness. Because when your set point is I'm unworthy, or your set point is I'm rotten, or your set point is I'm never good enough, or your set point is any of that negative stuff, right? That doesn't feel good, right? And that is, if you're springing off from that place, right, you're going to be way behind. We got to take such baby steps to get you to believe, right? The first thing you have to believe is that there's only one presence and one power in the universe. And guess what? You're it. Like, it's in you everywhere. And so there's no way that you can be anything but good. And that your inner being is goodness and wholeness. And when you give from that place, it just swings around and comes right back to you. And, we're human beings. So we have to do what we can to flex our muscle and monitor our thoughts and pay attention to what is it that we truly believe about ourselves, and work on getting rid of any of those old thoughts or old patterns, or as our founders would call error thoughts, which I love. Any error thought that you have that you're less than whole, that you're less than 100% good, is an error thought. And when we know that, that's part of the law, because it is the law. The law is the law, and the law always works. So the last thing I wanted to share with you, I love Myrtle Fillmore. I consider her the matriarch of this work. I love all the women, especially Emily Cady and Myrtle Fillmore and Florence Scovel Shen. But I had never read this, which is a sweet little daily words from Myrtle Fillmore. And they go Monday through Sunday. And this was written again, 1910. Okay? 1910, Monday. If you want the good to grow, watch the little words you sow. Tuesday. If you want life's blossoms rare, pull out thoughts that wear and tear. Wednesday. Loving good is always brought into sight through loving thought. Thursday. If you want to meet a smile, take one with you all the while. Friday, kind and loving deeds attract, and like the echo, come right back. Saturday, what we give we surely get, love for love and fret for fret. And Sunday, this sweet law, dear Lord, I know, I will reap the good I sow. This law is the law is the law is the law. And I promise you this formula of talent, time, and treasure, if you take it on, if you choose to take it on in your life, it will reap you rewards. And I encourage you to just be bold enough to take a baby step towards that, right? If you want abundance, you want flow in your life,